So for anyone that has been on Reddit today has seen the dumpster fire it's turned into after what is now the 10th patch week in a row since the last update being, of course, archaeology. Now, even though a lot of people are disappointed in the lack of updates, the majority, myself included, are more concerned with Jagex's lack of communication. I even made a post myself on the matter, but that's not what today's video is going to be about. Well, not exactly. I just got done watching Bibzida7's Monday Update recap video today, and he posed an interesting question that I wanted to share.
I actually made a post on Reddit asking a question. I think it could be a cool question to pose to you guys as well. If they were to drop a pretty big update at the end of this month without announcing or saying anything about it, would you be annoyed or would you be happy? I'm kind of having a hard time deciding.
So, pondering on this question a bit more, it actually reminded me of a conversation I had with someone on the Jagex research team when I attended RuneFest 2018 a couple years ago. Basically, he asked on my feedback on surprise updates versus expected updates. I basically felt the same way then as I do now. The problem with too much information simply is that players will have high expectations, which, if not met, leaves us disappointed in the content as too much was either hyped up or is flat out overpromised. Now, on the other hand, is essentially completely ghosting the community and not communicating whatsoever. Basically just releasing new content that we had absolutely zero expectations about, thus leaving us nothing but surprise. Now, this does have its faults as well, like releasing content people are essentially disinterested in because they didn't get to field player reactions by even mentioning the idea of it. But of course, like most things, the correct answer is somewhere in between these extreme opposites. Now let me give you a somewhat recent example. Back in February of 2019, we had the expected and delivered update of Elite Dungeons 3. What else we got was a complete surprise. The release of the Master Quest Curse of the Black Stone, which was a lengthy and substantial quest that tied the lore of the 3 Elite Dungeons together. Now I feel this is a perfect example of a surprise done right, and here's why. Jagex fulfilled the expectation the players had with delivering the much anticipated Elite Dungeons 3, and not only that, but rather subverted our expectations in a good way by releasing a fully fleshed out quest alongside it. Now, of course, this can't be done all the time. That's what makes it a surprise. Now, at this time, Jagex was only releasing one notable content release a month. So all that we really expected was Elite Dungeons 3. So let's see how this can be applied to the current state of the game now. So first, and probably the most important step, number 1, set expectations. You can't pleasantly surprise anyone if expectations aren't set ahead of time. So for example, if the expectation is that you've switched to an expansion model, right? One update per quarter, or maybe, going back to how things were where you get one medium to large update a month with the rest being patch weeks, you need to set those expectations. The second step here is subvert those expectations occasionally. I just did an ultimate critique of archaeology and have an entire segment dedicated to the surprises it gave us. So essentially, on release, archaeology, the expectation was exploring and digging, restoring artifacts, right? But what we didn't know was segments like flying or the new weapons that would come out. Those would be the surprise. You see where I'm going with this? Basically, once expectations are set, anything outside of the expectation is a surprise. Now, not all surprise updates need to be huge. Even something like a new skilling node, like a new tree, for example, that can be cut and the logs can be crafted or have some cool use, or from the recent past when we got the crystal skill champas in game, or even a quest like the recently released Once Upon a Slime, which in itself was an unexpected short quest. These would make fantastic, albeit small, but meaningful updates to the game in between content expansions if that's the direction that they are going to. And just simply communicate on where they're at with the release roadmap mentioned at RuneFest, and also address what their new release schedule is going to be, whether that be expansions, whether that's going to be monthly, mid to large size content releases. Probably never going to see the weekly releases ever again, but regardless, I feel like they should mention some note of what we should expect for new content releases. So let's close out making one final example here with the hopefully soon to be released Elder God Wars dungeon. So basically, Jagex set the expectation that we would receive Elder God Wars Dungeon. With that format, we would have 4 general bosses on release, followed by a main boss similar to Nex or Telos in a later release. We have no idea on the rewards, the location, the bosses themselves, or their mechanics or difficulty. And frankly, I'm okay with that. Maybe at most, if they wanted to tease the general boss's lore in a mini quest or reveal like one reward, that would be totally fine. But I think leaving the rest for a surprise on release day is completely acceptable so that our expectations aren't too high. To summarize, I do think that there's a fine line to walk when it comes to balancing surprise versus what we expect. And right now it seems that Jagex is leaning more towards ghosting the community, and maybe they might release an update as one big surprise to us. But my personal opinion is I don't think that that is the best approach. I think ultimately the best solution is to give transparency to your players on what to expect as far as major releases go, and then you surprise them with smaller content releases or small rewards that we didn't expect. We don't need to know everything that's going on in an update, just the major ones that you announced at RuneFest. And we need to know that those are still in development and plan to be released sometime this year. Anyways, that is all that I really wanted to discuss here today. Let me know what you guys think, what is kind of going on here with Jagex. Would be very interested in what your guys' thoughts are. If you think that all future updates are just going to be surprises, or if that there's really nothing in the works right now, let me know what you guys think. And then also let me know what you guys think about that initial question that was proposed by Bibzita7, that would you be upset if they just release a major content release today or at the end of the month without any sort of information that was even coming in the first place? Would love to know what you guys think about that. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good night.